You're listening to Karle and Kenner's Hitting the Bar. In the blue corner, we've got Mr. Karle supporting Tottenham. In the red corner, we've got Mr. Kenner supporting Arsenal. Together, they will be discussing all of your football views, all of your football news. So join us here on Karle and Kenner's Hitting the Bar.
Hello and welcome to what I believe is episode 24 of Karle and Kenner's Hitting the Bar, the football podcast. I'm Chris Karle, and with me, of course, Geoff Saunders. Hello, Geoff. Good afternoon.
Hello, Chris. Good to be here.
Right, well, we'll start, as always, with your trivia question.
Okay, the trivia question is a simple one this week. Who is the oldest player to make their debut in the Premier League? So, on the day that he made his debut, the oldest player.
Okay, that is simple to understand, but the answer not quite so simple, I don't think.
Well,
not quite sure about that one.
It's an interesting answer.
All right, the oldest player to make his debut in the Premier League. All right, let's move on to what has been a fascinating weekend of football, or round of football in the Premier League. Where to start, really? I mean, Leicester, brilliant. Liverpool, dominant.
Yeah.
Shall we start with Liverpool against Manchester City, because there was a bit of controversy in that game. Liverpool won 3-1. What's your take on the game?
Well, they deservedly won 3-1. I don't think the nonsense about the handball and the VAR really made a great deal of difference to it. They were dominant, and I think it was not handball. So I think that part of it ends there. City were better in the second half than the first half, created a lot of chances. I think they created more chances overall than Liverpool. I sat there never feeling confident they were going to score, which, considering they have Sergio Aguero out there, who is, for my money, the best goal scorer that the Premier League's ever seen, is remarkable.
Yeah, there's something about Aguero and Liverpool or Anfield, isn't there? That's
he
very
doesn't
strange.
score there. Yeah.
I mean, don't think he had a shot, did he?
No, he had some shots.
But there was some strange statistic about not having like one shot in the whole first half or something. City, is that?
I'm not sure that he had a shot on target.
Yeah.
No, they
voodoo with him in Anfield.
Well, that's right. They were hopelessly unbalanced in the first half, City. They had width on the right and no width at all on the left. And it was only second half when Guardiola had obviously told Sterling he's got to play more left. And Klopp then responded by bringing on Gomez to double team Sterling, because Sterling was looking very dangerous. You know, I never got the impression that enough chances were created from the possession that City had.
People are saying that City are faltering and Pep Guardiola's losing ground a little bit. They may be running out of tactics, running out of ideas. People are saying that he does look quite frustrated on the touchline and in his interviews.
Yeah, but he's always looked frustrated on the touchline. I think that's a load of nonsense. That's just writing your report, defining the narrative by the result rather than, were people writing that before? I don't think they were. If Guardiola has decided that, okay, we played well, but it was a bad day and we lost, which is what he seems to be saying, okay, fine. We'll see, won't we? The matches coming up will show. Yeah,
what I don't understand, I mean, like you said, the press just make it up anyway. How do they know what his mental state is and what he's thinking, or whether he has or hasn't run out of tactics? One thing that people are saying is that now that Liverpool are 8 points ahead of their nearest rivals, Leicester, and 9 points ahead of City, who are probably their real main rivals, that they are now going to win the league. But people are saying for some reason that's different from when they were 10 points ahead at Christmas.
Well, exactly.
We're not even at Christmas yet.
Exactly.
So what's the difference this year to last year?
There is none. And the last time I looked, the team that wins the Premier League had played 38 games, not 11. So it's just nonsense. Yeah,
we're at 12 games, so we're not exactly even a third of the way through the season.
No.
A spate of injuries, which Man City have got at the moment.
They really do, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, to bear that in mind, they've got Laporte's coming back, so they've got players that can come back. It could happen the other way to Liverpool by Christmas, and they could lose 2 or 3 of their main players.
Well, exactly, and City had 6 starters out for this match, so okay, they've got a great squad, and credit to them for building up a good squad. They can ride out the injuries better than Liverpool can. I'm not sure Liverpool have the depth in the squad that City have, but we just have to see. I mean, the caveat everyone had about Leicester when they did win the league was, we'll get to February and March and injuries and their squad isn't deep enough. And the same thing holds true today for Leicester. But they didn't have those injuries, and they did not just hold on, but they went on to win deservedly.
And deservedly so, yeah. Well, but, I mean, with Liverpool, they've got 2 games in 24 hours coming up in December. First of all, it's the Carabao Cup. I think it's on 16th or 17th of December, whatever it is. The Carabao Cup, quarterfinals, is it? And then the next day, they're playing halfway across the world in the Club World Cup.
Yeah, it's nonsense, isn't it?
Well, first of all, it's nonsense, but secondly, Klopp has said, obviously, he's just going to field 2 different teams.
Yes.
There's your potential for injuries to happen, though, I think, because I'm not sure if he's going to play 2 different teams, or maybe he'll fly 1 or 2 players out for the second game.
You can't do that. You can't go halfway around the world and play the next day.
No,
I mean, your body
only Phil Collins can do that.
Well, it wasn't even halfway around the world.
No, it wasn't. No. And he wasn't even on for an hour and a half, was he?
No, exactly.
But yeah, so it's going to be 2 entirely different squads.
Yes.
Which means not your normal. I mean, he's going to have to use every squad player then, isn't he, to reach a full 16 or whatever on each side?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah.
You know, because you've only got a squad of 24, haven't you, officially? I suppose.
Yeah.
Is that going? That's going to affect them a little bit, but they've been fortunate so far.
I think the thing that affects them is that from the start of December onwards, for the next 6 weeks, they play a match every 3 days.
That's crazy, though, isn't it? Even in this day and age of the fitness of the athletes and everything, psychologically, that's going to have an effect as well.
Yes, maybe, but I think the question marks that journalists were putting ahead of this match last weekend was that, Liverpool, they won't be able to handle the pressure. Blah blah blah. Well, they look like they could handle the pressure to me, and I think one of the talents that Klopp has is he takes pressure off those players. He does it with a big smile on his face, and when you see them interviewed, they love Klopp. They love him, and they'll do anything for him.
Yeah, I mean, he does genuinely enjoy football.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, obviously he's under a lot of pressure, and you can sometimes see he's gritting his teeth when he's smiling when they have had a VAR or a referee decision unfairly go against them. You can see him gritting his teeth, but he carries on smiling. But Guardiola, at the end of the game, went up and very dramatically, shall we say, I don't know if you saw the footage, but well, you must have done, you watched the game, shook hands with the referee. For me, it was purely sarcastic. The way I interpreted the footage, it looked like he was taking the piss, dramatically stuck his hand out and shook hands with the referee. He says he always does that, and there was nothing in it. The FA yesterday decided to take no action, but you saw the game. What did you think? Was he being deliberately dramatic?
Yes, I think he was. I think he was making a point, and he has a perfectly valid point to make. If the point is what the hell is the handball law, because nobody knows. I mean, nobody knows. It's just how can the same thing, a ball hitting a player's hand, be a penalty and not handball at exactly the same time, depending on where it happened and when it happened. Now,
right, so a hand is a different thing in a different place, basically.
No, but that thing, the ball hit, it came off Bernardo Silva's hand and then hit TA Squared's hand, and so the referee said no, it was ball to hand, therefore it was not a goal, not handball, therefore not a penalty. But the law says if the ball hitting the hand, even if it's accidental, leads to a goal being scored, then it is handball. So how can you create a situation where exactly the same thing has 2 different results, depending on where it is and what happens? The super brain in a jar, Jonathan Wilson, the Guardian football comment writer, came up with what's become known as the Wilson paradox, where he said, imagine a situation where there is a corner and the ball hits, it's ball to hand, hits a player's hand, he hoofs it up the pitch, and let's say it's someone like Jamie Vardy, runs onto it, first time shot into the goal. Now VAR rules say you have to go back, and that handball, because it led directly to a goal, even though it's not handball, if it didn't lead to a goal, is now a handball, therefore it's a penalty. Right. So what the forward, the Jamie Vardy in this example, has to do is deliberately miss. Because if he scores, they go back, the goal's wiped out, the other side get a penalty and they score. Now, how can you have created a situation where that can happen? And we had it this Sunday. We had it.
Yeah, I get the Wilson thing, but it's also kind of a Schrodinger's handball. It's both handball and not handball at the same time.
Exactly.
You know, until you actually...
Depending on whether a goal scored. Yeah, exactly.
Until a goal is scored.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Weird. Very strange situation. They have come out this week, haven't they, and said that the powers that be, that they're very, very pleased with how VAR is operating, and they're going to score it a 7 out of 10. I think they probably need to go back and relook at that one again on the screens, but they're very happy with it.
I think VAR is doing exactly what they want it to do. They want to use it to manipulate matches, and they are.
Yeah, I mean, all the managers are screaming out, of course, for the referees to go and look at the big screen on the side of the pitch. And they're saying the same in Italy, they're saying the same in Spain. Yeah. You know, that's the future, that's the way it should go.
Well, it's only Mike Riley, who is the head of the limited company, and this is important that it's a limited company, that is the Referees Association. He has told Premier League referees they are forbidden, mind you, from looking at the screen. Why? The referee is supposed to be in charge on the pitch.
Hence the name, hence the title, yeah.
Yes. So why has he forbidden them from doing that?
There's something sinister there. We've said it on last week's podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely something sinister. I did see a suggestion on social media, on the internet, so it must be true, but it was an idea suggested by somebody that they should limit the time depending on what they're looking at. So if there is a goal, but there is a question of offside, they should look at it on VAR, the big screens, wherever they are. If they cannot decide whether it is offside or not within 1 minute, then it should be given to the attacking, the benefit of the doubt should be given to the attacking side. Not to sit there for 2 or 3 minutes. There should be a time limit regarding each offence. So an offside, you get 1 minute, a handball, possible penalty or disallowed goal, you're allowed 90 seconds, and so on. Because otherwise, if you can't decide after a minute if it's offside or not, then nobody knows. Then, therefore, it should be...
Well, if you can't decide after a minute, then what does the law say? The law says, the offside law says, it must be obviously offside. That if there is any doubt, it goes in favour of the attacker. That's what the law says.
Well, there you are, then, yeah.
So this is another example of Riley and his people with VAR rewriting the law through the back door.
So, I mean, yes, if there's any doubt, then...
If there's any doubt, it's not offside. That's what the laws of football, that's what it says.
Well, then, and they're taking 3 minutes to decide.
Yeah.
There's something that's
so by
wrong
definition, it was onside.
Yeah. Yeah, innocent till proven guilty,
yes.
Or whatever. Yeah, you've got to have the evidence. Let's move on then. That's Liverpool against Manchester City. It's not a done deal, is it? Liverpool, just because we said about the 10 points lead they had last year.
No, not at all. But I think Liverpool played extremely well. They had a system that works very well with central midfielders who are essentially defensive ball winners, and Henderson does a little bit of box to box. That cross he put in for Mane's header, what a fantastic cross that was. Best cross I've seen for years. It was just wonderful. It took out the goalie, took out the defenders. Only one person could get it. You know, he's Henderson, so he'll try 15,000 times and never do that again. But you know, fair play to him. He did it then. And Trent Alexander, what a player!
Yes, what a great player. Yes, let's move on then, because there was an incident. Well, move on in the sense that a slightly different topic. There was an incident in the game at the end of the game between Raheem Sterling and Joe Gomez. Bit of pushing and shoving and arguing.
Well, the pushing and shoving was coming from Sterling, and Gomez was just standing there with a smile on his face, looking down at him and saying, "Come on, don't be so stupid."
Yeah, don't be silly. What happened though was the next day, training with the England team, both players. Sterling kicked off again. It was still, emotions in his mind at least were still running very high. Again, I believe Joe Gomez just stood off and was visibly, apparently upset that having been apologised to by Sterling the day before, he'd started again.
Yeah, and what did Gomez do wrong? He walked up to him with a smile on his face and shook his hand. And that's what caused Sterling to kick off.
So obviously, the City player, we're saying that Guardiola is in control of it, but the City players not taking that game or that defeat well, clearly.
Well, no, and you wouldn't want them to sort of take it well. You'd want them to hurt. But why he kicked off again at Gomez is, well, only he knows.
Yeah, we don't know the background, but Gareth Southgate, the England manager, ruled Raheem Sterling out for the game that, as far as we're concerned, is upcoming on Thursday against Montenegro. He said he can't. He might play in the game against Kosovo next Sunday, but he's not playing in this game.
It would be interesting if it was a game that mattered, isn't it?
All right, so we're giving Southgate the benefit of the doubt that he's made the right decision by making a statement. Yeah. But had it been the semi-final in the World Cup against France, you would have just played him, obviously.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
That's the way that works. Let's move on to Leicester then, who were at home to Arsenal. We're going to talk about Arsenal later because we love talking about Arsenal. I'm a Tottenham fan, so kind of a little bit of relief from the woes of being a Tottenham fan, and we'll come to those in a moment. But Leicester are absolutely brilliant.
They were flying, weren't they?
Yeah, and I watched that game. Yeah. With all due respect to Arsenal, it could have been the Arsenal of old, and they would have still lost.
Yeah, that Leicester team on Saturday would have beaten anybody. It was the best performance by a Premier League team I've seen this season. It was wonderful. You couldn't watch that and not fall in love with football. It was superb.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way I felt about it. I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. It was pleasure to watch. It was poetry. It was art. Yeah. It was flowing football. Every player instinctively knew where the other one should be, and they were where they should be.
Yes.
I mean, they were passing. They could have played that game blindfold. It looked like they could have done that. They were so good. It was a pleasure to watch.
Think of the midfield, and Ndidi, Tielemans and Maddison. What a midfield that is. They obviously know what they're going to do. They know where Vardy needs the ball. And, that team is designed to get Vardy the ball where Vardy needs the ball. And you have to hold your hand up to Brendan Rodgers and say he's worked miracles with that team, because this time last year, it wasn't beyond the realms of possibility they'd get relegated.
Yeah.
They were utterly clueless. He came in and, I've said this before, but his points per game from when Rodgers came in to the end of last season, had that been over the whole season, they'd have finished 16 points higher. And all Leicester have done is just carry that on into this season.
Yeah, I think when he took over, they were 16th or something.
Yeah.
And now they've got more points and more goals and a better goal difference than they had than the season when they won it. This time that year, 12 games in, they were 1 point behind the leaders and then went on to win it. This time they're 8 points behind, so it just shows how good Liverpool are, I suppose.
Yes.
But Leicester are... I mean, if they don't finish in the top four, it'll be a huge disappointment, I think, for football, because when they won the league, it was a breath of fresh air.
It was,
and they're doing it again.
Oh, they're very much doing it again. I can't see them winning the league because they've got too many points to make up against Liverpool, and I can't see Liverpool dropping that many. But I would have thought they're almost nailed on for top four.
Yeah, they should be.
It can only be a lot of injuries later in the season that can stop it. Right. But they do have one huge advantage compared to everyone else that's competing with them for the top four. No European matches.
Yes, again, this counted in their favour when they won the league, of course.
Yes.
As we said, Liverpool have got all these games coming up. Tottenham struggling in the league, but doing well in the Champions League lately. Yeah. I do hope the manager, Pochettino, isn't just concentrating on the Champions League and forgetting about the Premier League, but again, they drew with Sheffield United at the weekend. Another average performance from Tottenham.
They were lucky to draw. And Sheffield United deserved to win, and they had a goal disallowed that should not have been disallowed. And it's a complete mystery to me how that couldn't have been given offside where it clearly was onside. But
again, there was some doubt, and therefore it should have been given. But
the lines that were drawn by the VAR people showed the Sheffield United player onside. So how can it have been given offside?
Yeah, it's all very mystifying. But Tottenham struggling. There's been talk of Pochettino being given a sack or leaving. There's talk of Emery at Arsenal going. And then you have, Brendan Rodgers, as we've just mentioned, getting Leicester to play so brilliantly. Is he not possibly at least the third best manager in the league, or possibly in Europe? Behind Klopp and Guardiola in England, but he definitely is one of the best managers around. Would he go to Arsenal or Tottenham?
I'd imagine he would go to either of those, yes. Arsenal, will Kroenke pay the money, 3 years' salary to get rid of Emery, or 2 years, or whatever it is, and will Levy do the same with Pochettino?
32 million is the alleged amount he'd have to pay Pochettino to get rid of him.
Well, he's not going to do it. So your answer
there is no.
So it's not going to happen, is it?
Not going to happen.
No.
Let's go back to Arsenal, because our friend Steve Kenton has been raging, hasn't he, lately on Facebook?
Well, yeah, he had a rant about Granit Xhaka.
And quite rightly.
And posted on the Karle and Geoff Facebook site, which you should visit because it's a bit of fun. He posted on the site that a toaster was more use in the midfield of Arsenal than Granit Xhaka. Simply, I suppose, because it's an inanimate object that you have to run round, whereas Xhaka isn't. I think we should, bearing in mind Arsenal's performance against Leicester City, where they appear to have put out 11 toasters, we should rename them. They're not the Gunners anymore, they're the Toasters.
They're the Toasters, yes. Each one of them is an inanimate useless object, not just Granit Xhaka.
So go Toasters.
Go Toasters, yeah. We'll just have to see where they pop up in the league. All right, stop that. Stop it. But Granit Xhaka, back to him very briefly, because you want to have a little comparison with a player in Europe in a moment.
Yeah.
But is he finished at Arsenal now?
Oh, it has to be, yeah.
Because he came out yesterday, I think, and said the fans are to blame for Arsenal's poor form, for booing him and booing the rest of the team at other times, and therefore putting the players in a bad mood.
Well, okay, there is an old English expression that's when you're in a hole, stop digging.
So, yeah, really, shut up, Granit. Shut up. How to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, he's just making it worse.
I mean, he needs to shut up, and his PR team needs sacking, I think, because that is not the way to go in the current situation. So he walked out the stadium and all that, but somebody else did it this week, didn't they?
Well, yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo was substituted for the second game in a row, and he stormed off down the tunnel, and he'd left the stadium before the match had finished, which is one of the things that Granit Xhaka was accused of doing.
Yes, it's one of the things Xhaka did. I mean, he did several others as well on his way to doing that. So, for me, Granit Xhaka's offence is a bit higher, but Ronaldo, petulant.
Well, what a shock. Who would have thought Cristiano Ronaldo...
Yeah, we're not that surprised.
Who would have thought the Ronaldo who lay down on the ground in one of the Real Madrid-Barcelona Clásicos at the Bernabeu, he was lying down on the ground like a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum, banging his fists into the ground because somebody didn't pass to him. Who'd have thought that person would...
Yes, the same person who gets substituted. I mean, to add insult to... Well, not injury, because he was substituted not for injury, but because they needed to substitute him for tactical reasons. But Dybala came on in his place, and then just to her, Ronaldo even more went on and scored, which can't have scored.
A very good goal as well. A very good goal. But then Dybala only scores brilliant goals.
Yes, yeah, and we watch him at Tottenham, still hoping that will happen.
I think they'll keep him at Juve, and I would not be at all surprised if Ronaldo was moved on. His transfer to Juventus has been a failure. It has not achieved what it was supposed to achieve. He scored the same number of goals last season that Dybala did the season before. And there are rumours that the reason Dybala doesn't play is that Ronaldo doesn't want him to play. So he scored the same number of goals. Juventus, with Ronaldo, conceded more goals. They scored 16 fewer goals with Ronaldo, and they scored fewer points, 5 fewer points to win the league for the 7th year in a row. So on every measure, that transfer has been a failure.
If as a direct replacement or swap for Dybala, it makes no sense. If he was there to strengthen the team and be alongside Dybala, then it would have made more sense. But of course, you can't have that.
It would have made more sense. It would be very difficult for that to happen. But if he was there to strengthen or improve the team, you would imagine that one of the metrics would have improved. There would have been more goals. There would have been fewer goals conceded. They'd have won more points. In fact, everything went south.
Well, in that case, not to improve the team, but had Dybala left and he replaced him, and then his goals more or less the same, then that makes sense. But he didn't replace him. Dybala's still there.
Dybala's still there and still looks brilliant. And
what a debacle. Yeah.
And if anybody really wants to know, go on YouTube and look at Dybala, because he is... For my money, he's in the top 3 in Europe as a footballer. He's just wonderful.
Yeah, he's a brilliant player, and I hope to see him in the Premier League at least next season, if not before. All right, look, let's move on to West Ham, your team, because
do we have to?
We have to. I'm sorry, we have to. The problem being, of course, is that we have said before that Pochettino, Emery, Silva at Everton, and now Pellegrini at West Ham, all in fear of their jobs, I would imagine.
Yes.
But the board came out yesterday and said they back him fully. So that's the end of that then.
Oh, dear.
Yes, oh, dear. Yes, taxi or private hire car for Pellegrini.
Uber for Pellegrini.
For Pellegrini. But
what the Hammers board have done is fire the director of football, who is a close friend and ally of Pellegrini. So it's just like, if you like, this is a shot across your bows. But there must be something wrong there, because it's okay to blame Roberto, the replacement goalkeeper for Fabianski. And, look at the Newcastle game. They got 3 goals and Roberto should have saved every single one of them. But how did Newcastle get into the penalty area to score those 3 goals? That's not
Newcastle, for goodness sake.
Yeah, that's not down to Roberto. Something is going wrong there. Because if you write down the names of the midfield and attack of West Ham, they're as good as anyone in the league except Manchester City.
So they get into any
So they're not playing, and that is the job of the manager. Here are these assets, you make the best use of them, and Pellegrini is not.
So are you losing faith? Because he's a good manager.
He's a good manager. I was really pleased when he went there, because I loved watching Villarreal in Spain when he managed them. They were just, in fact, just like West Ham. They're a local team with a not very big ground. They play attractive football, so people keep filling the stadium every other week. It's exactly the same, and yet now it isn't working. And how can a team with Anderson and Lanzini and Fornals, how can they not be creating chances?
And then you've got Haller, with a great goal scorer, misfiring at the moment a little bit, or not getting selected as often as he should be. The young Spanish guy you signed,
Fornals.
Yep. Being a bit of a disappointment, I believe.
He's just not getting the starts.
So he's not a bit like Lo Celso and Ndombele and Sessegnon at Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
They haven't been used for various reasons. Injury was one of the excuses, but also they have been available. And Pochettino's chosen not to select these guys who are, I think, the future of Tottenham. Well, the same with that guy at West Ham.
Exactly, but I think in Tottenham and Lo Celso is clearly a better player than Eriksen, a far more effective player. But you do wonder whether Pochettino has been instructed to play Eriksen so they can sell him.
There must be, because his form has been dreadful. I mean, on all the Tottenham social media pages, on Facebook, one of them that I'm a member of, Glory Tottenham Hotspur, just to give them a plug because they do listen to the podcast, they're all saying, that they were almost disappointed when Eriksen scored last week because he came on as a substitute and everybody went, oh no, not Eriksen. And then he went on and scored. And we didn't need the goal anyway, we're already 3-up or whatever. But in the Champions League, wasn't it? And the Tottenham fans were sort of sarcastically or ironically groaning and going, oh no, he scored, that means he's going to get selected against Sheffield United, oh no. Tottenham fans have lost faith with him. They still think he's a great servant for the club, great player, but he's not playing anymore up to what he used to.
No, he's not. He clearly isn't. He's dialing it in, isn't he, really? We are where we are, and he wants away in after Christmas, and we'll have to see who has the money to buy him.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see him go because for his own sake,
yes,
but also for a bit of harmony in the Tottenham dressing room and on the pitch.
Yeah, either that or Selva-Tongan. That gets you the harmony as well, doesn't it?
Or one of them, yeah. But I think yes, we all know that story, alleged story. Going back to Pellegrini and Emery and all those, all these managers' jobs are dodgy. Pellegrini, he's sort of been given time because the board understand that Fabianski has been injured and therefore that might be part of the problem. Emery has been told to pull his socks up, basically, by the Arsenal board. They've said they back him, but he's got to pull it. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he's got to pull his socks up and start turning things around pretty sharply. So that doesn't look good. Well,
for the Toasters, there's Allegri sitting in the background taking his English lessons. So, that's got to happen, hasn't it? I mean, it's a deal made, it's just the right deal for everybody, isn't it?
I think Arsenal fans, and I think Steve Kenton would agree that Allegri would be a great manager for Arsenal.
Well, mind you, Cardiff City have just fired their manager, haven't they?
Yes, Neil Warnock's left Cardiff.
Warnock, yeah. So, if the Toasters get involved in a relegation scrap, Warnock's just the man, isn't he?
Actually, you're right, yeah. So Warnock to
Arsenal. The Toasters.
Please let it happen. Neil Warnock has left Cardiff City after over 3 years in charge. He's been there twice, took them up, took them down, took them up again. He never really flourished in the Premier League, but really flourished in the Championship. He's a Championship manager.
He's a Championship manager.
I think he enjoys it.
Very, very good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his. I don't know whether he'll continue in management or not, but he left by mutual agreement, was it?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
We don't know what that really means, do we?
Yeah. It means that they're 14th in the league. That's what it means, or lower, I think.
Well, what it actually means is we'll give you this slug of money, but you don't say nasty things about us in the press.
That's what it means.
Leaves by mutual agreement actually means.
Which is why he's been saying all his platitudes about how much he loves Cardiff.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a bad year, didn't he, in general? I think, there's some personal problems as well.
Yeah.
And then the whole Salah thing, the helicopter crash, and unfortunately, I think that affected him quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it did.
Emotionally, I mean, immensely.
The thing about Warnock, he's a football man, isn't he? He's not fancy in any way, he just loves football. And he likes football played the way he wants to play it, and as long as someone will pay him to be a manager, we'll get the team to do that.
So Neil Warnock to Arsenal, please. We want it to happen.
that really would be the gift that keeps on giving.
It would, wouldn't it? And then what would happen would this is the scenario I want to see: is Neil Warnock goes to Arsenal, gets them into the relegation zone. They sack Warnock and bring in Allardyce to save them. So they'll have those two fantastic managers that are a great fit for Arsenal.
And in the background is Mourinho's agent still popping these these plugs into the press.
Yes, seriously though.
But that isn't going to happen. No, it won't be Mourinho. It won't be. I mean, Mourinho is yesterday's man, and anyone who knows anything about football knows he's not the solution for anyone at the top.
I mean, Mourinho doing some great punditry work, quite amusing, quite interesting on all the different TV stations commentating on games and putting people in their place. He obviously seems very relaxed and enjoying it, and he's very good at it, actually.
He's very good at it, yes.
He is very good at it. Maybe that is his future, he's done it, he's been there. Maybe he is yesterday's man, but I don't think, we've said this before, but I don't think Arsenal can afford him.
No.
I don't mean necessarily his salary, which is also a bit of a stopping point.
Yeah.
But he likes to spend money. He doesn't believe in bringing youth team players through. He's going to want a big war chest, and Arsenal never release more than 70 million.
He's not the right fit for Arsenal, for the Toasters at all. No.
The Toasters, yes. All right. So we think Allegri would be... We want Warnock, but we think Allegri would be a great manager for Arsenal.
I think Allegri's a better bet, yeah.
And we certainly don't think Emery will be with Arsenal next season.
No.
But possibly will stay to the end of this because of the money and everything else.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Look, if for anyone who wants to get rid of their manager, you have to have in mind somebody better.
You've got to know that you're going to get a better one.
Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah, and the other thing, of course, is with Mourinho, they were saying, for example, and it'd be the same for any manager, I think, that if he doesn't get the job, allegedly, or, theoretically get the job at Arsenal before January, he's not going to take it after. Because if you don't get a transfer window in as soon as you start, you're not going to go, get signed up in February and go for the rest of the season with the old manager's players. So if they're going to get somebody in, it has to be before Christmas, really. And we are approaching that fast.
And we're in a international break. Management changes tend to happen.
Oh yes, that is true. Actually, yeah. I mean, it's a lovely time to sack somebody. It's during the international break because nice and quiet around the ground. You can get the manager in quietly and sack him while the players are away.
Mind you, for Toasters fans, that would be good. They bring in a new manager, they can start slagging him off before he's even started. That would be
yes.
In the 2 weeks between starting and putting a team out, they can have decided to hate him.
They almost have a sort of generic hashtag and banner, don't they? But anyone out.
Anyone out, yes.
Anyone out. Everybody out. Okay, Allegri, Emery, Warnock, everybody out. The Toasters do like to hate on. They do like to hate on people, don't they? A little bit.
They're extraordinary sort of supporters for reserving their bile for their own players.
Yeah, I mean you kind of understand how Jack had enough, but I don't support his actions. But
yes,
it does seem to be something that happens there quite a lot. Let's turn our attention a little bit to international football for a while. European Championships qualifying games. We're coming to the end of that almost now. Yeah, we are coming up to an international break. 2 games for England: Montenegro and Kosovo.
Yeah,
2 big games. We only need to win one of them or get a point from one of them to automatically qualify for the next round to get to the finals. It's a chance for him to play young players, obviously. There has been talk of bringing Vardy back because he's top scorer in the league.
Yes,
so why wouldn't you pick an informed player? But he's 32.
Look, the only argument for bringing Vardy in is if you have an injury crisis with your centre forwards and you need someone as an emergency. The young players they've got are perfectly good enough to do it. And no, Vardy's not the answer. Well, I am unpleasantly puzzled, looking at the players that he has brought in. I mean, Lingard, Hudson-Odoi, Winks. Why are they in the squad? What have they done? Hudson-Odoi, what has he done to warrant playing for England? Please, somebody tell me which matches he's been excellent in. How many matches has he started? 3. And was he excellent in them? No. He looked promising occasionally, but there wasn't enough end result from the dribbling that he does. Compare him to Jadon Sancho, and it's like night and day. I mean, Jadon Sancho is the real deal. One of the top 3 players in the Bundesliga for the last 2 years. Always delivers with goals and assists. What is Hudson-Odoi doing in that squad?
No, I don't get it either.
And Winks shouldn't even be in the Tottenham squad.
Well, I'm a Tottenham fan, as you know, and I had great hope for Harry Winks as he came through the youth system, and everything else looked like a decent player. I don't understand why he's getting picked regularly now. There are so many other players, as we've mentioned, the new signings, everything. So many players that are better in his position at Tottenham. There's competition for that place. It's not like he's the only one that can fill that position. Yeah. I don't think he's currently good enough for Tottenham and certainly not for England.
No, and Lingard is exactly the same. What has Lingard done in the last 3 years that warrants a place in the England squad? I've yet to see it. One of the issues about young players, when they come in, supporters love to see a young player come through their system. Oh, that's great. And all they focus on for the first several matches is the good things he does, and they tune out the mistakes. Now with Winks, we're seeing the mistakes he made. He's always made them, but you think, oh well, they can train that out of him, coach that out of him as he gets more experience. Well, he's not. He's still giving the ball away the way he did before.
Yes.
Now, instead of thinking, oh, he's a great young player, he's one of ours, blah blah blah, people are saying he's just giving the ball away again.
Yes, there is that thing, actually. You're right. They do, fans and pundits and media do gloss over it. When a young player comes through and he's 17 and a half or 18, they'll have this thing, oh, he scored his first Premier League goal, he scored his goal on his debut, scored his first home goal, had a great performance, and they keep going on and on and on about how great he is. And they go, he's a young prospect. Then suddenly you realise they're not young anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
And suddenly you realise that they've been treading water for 2 years and not actually been that good.
Exactly, and that's where Winks is.
They're sort of trading on being that young starlet, but you're not a starlet anymore. And I think Winks is getting to that age, like Dele Alli, who's I think is actually just a little bit younger than Winks, actually, by a month or so.
Is he? Right.
Dele Alli is also one of those players that getting to that point now where he's no longer a starlet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But Harry Winks is certainly not in Dele Alli's class anyway.
No.
But I don't think Winks should be in the England setup, and I think he does need replacing at Tottenham. I think he's playing too many games.
I would also say, and you might well disagree with this, but Harry Kane should not play for England.
What now?
Harry Kane, his form, he should not be playing for England. He's not the informed striker.
True enough. I mean, he's one of the best strikers in Europe.
When he's on form.
He scored in form, but I mean, he's still... The last England outing, he played his heart out and he did score, and he was excellent for England. For Tottenham, he's not... I don't think he's getting the service he's used to. He's having to track back a lot. He has provided a few goals. I mean, we haven't scored that many, to be honest, have we? Perhaps he needs a rest from there. England don't need him, actually, in these two games.
I would play the Chelsea lad. I'd start him instead of Kane.
Abraham,
yeah.
Tammy Abraham. Well, we need a point or something ridiculous for 2 games. One of them is at home to Montenegro. The other one is away at Kosovo, which has only been a team for like 8 years or 10 years.
That's right. Yeah.
We should be beating both of those easily.
We should beat both of them comfortably.
With all due respect to both countries, there's 2 points in 2 games there at least, surely, and we're home and dry. So maybe Harry Kane, for his own good and for England's good, does need dropping. Maybe you're all right. I'm not happy with that, but I see your point.
He's on form. He's not worth the place.
His work rate is still very good for Tottenham, but what the results he's getting from that work rate. The percentage the percentage has gone down, hasn't it? Sort of the work rate to accomplishment has gone down. Something to do with Tottenham's woes as well, possibly.
Well, very much so, yeah.
It's obviously he is a hard worker, but possibly it's all beginning to tell and get a bit too much for him as well. All right, we'll be back after the international break with our comments about that. Maybe Harry Kane will get a hat-trick and we'll all look silly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we wrap it up, though, for this week's edition of Karle and Kenners, the question and answer to your Triv question.
The question was a quite simple one, really. Who is the oldest player to make his debut in the Premier League? So the player who was oldest on the day that he played first in the Premier League. I
would have said Jamie Vardy, because I think he came into the Premier League quite late and he's always looked old.
How old is Jamie Vardy now?
33.
33.
He can't have been,
You're 10 years out.
Wow.
This person was 43 years and 4 months and 26 days old when he came on as a half-time substitute for Manchester City against Newcastle United on 29th of April 1995.
Just as the Premier League was starting, really?
Yep.
Who's that?
John Burridge.
John Burridge, well-known player, of course, yeah. So basically, because the Premier League had just started and his career was just finishing... That makes sense, yeah.
But 43 years, 4 months, he's still playing.
That was his debut. I suppose a lot of players made their debut quite late in life in the Premier League by the very nature that it started during their careers. But anybody coming on at 43 in the Premier League is incredible. Yeah, I mean, John Burridge tells one of the best stories that I've heard. He was at Southampton when Shearer was coming through. And during training, there was a through ball put through, and he was going to get to it
at the same time as the striker. You know, they come together, and sometimes the striker, slides in to try and get the ball first and ends up hurting the goalkeeper. Shearer pulled out, and Burridge went ballistic at him. Don't you ever pull out of a challenge with the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper expects a clattering, you give it to him.
Nice, that's how football should be played. All right, well, thank you to West Ham Geoff Saunders. Thank you, Geoff.
You're very welcome.
You and I shall be back next week. I believe Steve Kenton will be joining us. Looking forward to that, so do join us next week. But for now, I'm Chris Karle, that was Geoff Saunders, and this was Karle and Kenner's Hitting the Bar, the football podcast.
You've been listening to Karle and Kenner's Hitting the Bar. Join us again next week for more of their twisted football news, all of their weird football views. You can find them here every week on Karle and Kenner's Hitting the Bar. We'll see you again shortly.